Welcome back. We are inviting you to attend the next session of addictions. In the last session, we had discussed on the introductory part of addictions, and in this session, we have one of our entity with us to discuss regarding how to manage the addiction behavior of a person. If you talk in the medical aspect, it's always good that if we know that a person is addicted, go to a hospital and
True.
start with the treatment, because the earlier you're going to revive the person better. Otherwise it's a compulsive behavior. Actually I've seen that the patients are tied up in the bed, so that because they're that much violent because they're craving for that particular
True.
illnesses. If the craving is not there, the patient will go for withdrawal signs. If I think that I should not take all these things, then the withdrawal symptoms come up, and the person want to escape from the withdrawal symptoms, because that is also painful for that person to bear. So if you see, there are so many drugs we are giving, that antidepressants or schizophrenic drugs can be given. Along with the medical treatment, there is psychotherapy, there is the individual therapy or behavior therapy we can be given. There is something called self-help group or peer supports will be given, especially with alcohol. There is something called Alcohol Anonymous group, and each drug has anonymous group that the people, those who rehabilitate, is already telling about themselves to the newly addicted people, so that they are telling them, you can also come out the way I have come out. So these are some of the ways we can actually help a person to come out. It may be curiosity made the person to go in, but it is a tough task to bring that person back. It's a long process. Once you're moved into a rehabilitation center, it is a long process to come back to the normal life. Till that actually that person is paying his life, the time and his efficiency, her talents, and the life process is compromised.
Definitely.
When you're there in the rehabilitation process. Actually, in a nutshell, this is the way we can explain what is happening in a de-addiction center or in a hospital, if you want to take an addict to a hospital center.
Definitely.
So another thing, so it is mainly of a physical rehabilitation as well as a mental rehabilitation. I think spiritual rehabilitation has much to do with this, to take the person out, because some medical facilities are giving a spiritual facility, so that a spiritual upliftment of this de-addiction centers has been promoted.
Correct.
So I think Bonofa, you can talk about more on the spiritual aspect, how we can pull a person from addiction.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, in today's time, medicine and the medical community has done great, leaps and bounds of how to help people. In fact, there has been case studies after case studies about how people have actually come out successfully. But there are always those cases where things have not worked into their favor, and we all are learning. I mean, especially in the spiritual sense also. And the way how I see it is, we are a spirit and we are a soul and we are in a body. So whatever we put in our body also has an implication on our spirit. And when we start to understand that, any addiction also for that matter, has also a very huge interplay on our spirit. Now, when that happens and when we start to lose control as a spirit, because we are a spirit being first, we start to have something which is physical have and control over us. So our choice as a spiritual being starts to lose for something that is a physical thing. Now when that happens, we start to lose control, and when the control is lost, we start to be influenced under something that is physical. Now the way how to remove that is, in the spiritual realm, is you take back control. Who takes back control? We as a spiritual being takes back control from the physical and the bodily need, and that is something that's the way how it is being put. Now in the spiritual realm, what happens is, the way how you take back control is you start taking control over who you are, over your identity. So you need to realize that you are a spirit being, and you start to take control in the sense that you start to affirm things, and you start to choose not to do it again. But it's not that easy as it was before. So what happens is, you start to go in a certain way where you take steps, you start to have a routine, you start to have relationships again, because addiction sometimes gets you into wrong relationships and gets you away from the right relationships. So you work on relationships, you work on relating to other people, because many times addicts always go into isolation. They always may not be depressions, but they may always go into their own cocoon and their own shell, where they do their stuff alone, out away from the physical, away from the worldly light. Now what happens from the spiritual realm is you start to connect. You start to connect with, not just with God, but also with humanity, with the world, with the community around you. And you start to take help, not just from the medical community, but from spiritual leaders. And the way to do that is you start to understand that every addiction has like a ruling entity, like a spiritual authority from the negative side. Okay, so when you give authority over to that entity, you need to take back control. And the way how you take back control is to start to affirm and kick out that enemy. And you do that through prayer. You do that through spending time with people who also are in that journey. And people have had this testimony that when they start to pray, when they start to actually cast out, that's the word that I was looking for, cast out the demonic entity of addiction, okay, people have actually reported zero withdrawal symptoms, because it was no longer physical, it was a very heavy spiritual bondage. And when you look at it that way, and when you look at the success in that sense, you start to realize that spiritual bondage, spiritual authority that a person has, and that was given to a physical entity, and then you have lost out, that is huge. So when you start looking at spiritual remedy, when you start looking at the way how you can come out of it from a spiritual sense, it gives good success.
Right. Connie had explained very well. I wanted to add one more thing, as government is really offering helplines to bring these people to government so that they can be registered and they can give the help. If you see how they work, is the first thing is, I being an addict need to have a realization that it has an impact and I need to come back. And another thing is, I need to make sure that I'm out of the company what I was in, because peer pressure or the environmental factor play an important role for starting this kind of addiction. This is why our parents always tell us that don't go into bad company, because the company of your friends really tell you what is your personality. So we need to understand that if I'm a person, an addict, understand I got the news from someone, cut that relationship. And then I need to seek for good people who can be in a better way so that it can be lifted up. Another observation I have seen in this kind of people is, if that person is alone, if a person is going to help him, a kind of severe dependency can be seen. Whereas the person who has gone to help also is pulled down, that person might have gone to pull him up or pull her up, but the findings is that person also down in the dark pit, whereas both will not be able to get up from the mess what they are in. So it can go to actually a soul tie if that person is not professionally or spiritually equipped to help that particular person. This is one of the stark findings I have seen. So this is my need. If I become an addict, I need to get into the conscious effort. I need to take it from my side, and I need to work for it accordingly. If I talk about spirituality, actually in Bible there may not be words or speak about drug addiction, but Bible clearly speaks that do not drink wine because it will lead to debauchery, and you are not going to speak the way what you are, something else is going to speak. And Bible is very clear to speak that a man without self-control is like a city without walls, and it is terribly attacked if the city doesn't have a wall to be protected. So I feel that when you are going to be addicted, knowing the consequences, if I'm going to get addicted, understand I'm going to be a city and I'm under attack all the time. So this thing I need to understand. The second thing is, Bible is telling clearly that be wise. Be wise in selecting your friends and be wise in your walk. And another point what I have noticed from the Bible is the fear of the Lord actually keep you away from the negative people,
things.
and the grace of the God is actually protecting you from the hidden attacks what is happening to you. It is not my merit or your merit that we are not any addicts.
Definitely.
Understand there is much more than that, because the addicts also a common person like you and me who's supposed to sit like this or talk or behave like this. They did not do anything wrong, but somewhere something from behind their parents also did not mean that they will become an addict tomorrow.
Correct.
But understand, something attacked them. What is not attacked us is much more to do with a spiritual covering that protects you till the end.
Definitely.
So I really admire the parents who really prayed for their children so that they won't be going to this kind of attack and will be crying, oh, he or she is a burden for the family.
Definitely.
I've seen parents doesn't want to support the children because they're addicts, but end up paying money for their addiction or for their drug or their smoking character just because they want peace at home. And when you enter into this kind of family, it's a painful experience, and it is for a lifelong time. It is not one day fever and cold sickness. So understand, we are inviting trouble to our house. How much ever educated, how much ever rich you are, you're inviting pain to yourself.
Definitely.
So I really request the people that are saying it's better to avoid any kind of addiction. It's not because I am better or you are better. It's a conscious effort I need to take from my side that I should not be a part of a mess where it is very difficult to bring you back. And when medical professionals also helping you, they don't have any emotional attachment to you. They are doing their job. They are not worried whether you are coming out or no. They are doing their part. The ultimate loss is for you and your family. So I feel that this episode has spoken to you well. The need of not going into mess after mess, being an addict. And if anyone is struggling, please feel free to contact the details what is given in the video. And we are so happy that you're subscribed the videos and liking and sharing, and please encourage us by doing the same. So see you soon, and may God help you to be happy and be out of accident which is not expected, and we are going to meet in the next session. Thank you.